One of Canadian television's longest-running news shows is coming to a close after 19 seasons.
And a new face here in TV Ontario, but certainly no stranger to television viewers in Ontario and, in fact, to viewers across Canada who know him for his energetic and informative role on CBC and CBC News World. I'm delighted, completely delighted to welcome Steve Paikin to his first appearance on TVO. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
It's been worth waiting for.
We wish you many, many happy decades ahead.
Thanks very much, Elwie. And it has been...
Steve Paikin's debut on TV Ontario 33 years ago, and indeed there were successful decades for Paikin to follow. He was the face of the provincial public broadcaster, a masterful interviewer and journalist. The final episode of his program, The Agenda, will air the last Friday in June. And Steve is in our studio in Toronto. And Steve, with the end of The Agenda, is it appropriate to say congratulations?
Yeah, sure. You'd be happy if this show you're doing lasted 19 years, wouldn't you? So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, although some days it feels like 19 years. Anyway, so you joined TVO in 1992 from the CBC.
Yep.
But I think of how much has changed in terms of media since then. If somebody came up to you and said, launch a show today with the goals that you have for your program, would it look a lot different?
Oh, it had. I mean, Ian, when I joined TVO in 1992, I don't even think we could send emails yet. I mean, you want to talk about prehistoric ages. Yeah, things were different. But I'll tell you, one of the things I've loved about working at TVO for 32 years now, which I can scarcely believe, is that, you know, to me, it's public television at its absolute most mission-driven. We don't worry about advertising. We have, and I think we've been around for 19 years because we've got our eye on the prize. We care about the journalism. We care about being fair. We care about civil dialogue. And so far, it seems to be working out okay.
Yeah, and I should say, for people outside Ontario who may not be as familiar with you as Ontarians are, the program is cherished by a lot of people, especially people who follow politics, which you clearly love and understand. And, you know, politics has become a lot more polarized, I think, lately, maybe even more mean-spirited. Do you think we can get to an era where we see a bit more civility?
Do you know, I saw a moment at the end of the leaders' debate, which, and I hope I don't sound too naive in saying this, which made me think that, who knows, maybe we can hold out some hope that it could happen. Ian, after the leaders' debate was over, I watched pretty carefully, and Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre shook hands, had a brief conversation, and actually smiled at each other. Now, that's something I would not have anticipated even a few weeks ago, but there you go, it did happen. So, yes, I'm holding out hope that if we demand it, things can get more civil, but we have to demand it.
Yeah, I was in the newsroom here in Vancouver watching the debate, saw that moment, and even from this far away, it was pretty amazing. And let me ask you about the debate. You did a fantastic job as the moderator, but it feels like, I mean, you kind of sort of talked about your role like being a referee maybe in a Stanley Cup playoff game. No matter what you do, somebody's going to be unhappy. What is the aftermath of the debate been like for you?
Well, two things on that. Number one, I went up to all four leaders after the debate was over, and all four of them said that they thought the debate was fairly moderated. So that's the main thing I wanted to hear. In fact, Pierre Poilievre said, I just spent 2 hours with you and I have no idea who you're voting for. So that's exactly what I was going for. And I've received, I mean, literally hundreds of emails since then from people saying I did okay. On the other hand, Ian, I have to tell you, I went on X a couple of days after the debate. I allowed myself 2 days to feel pretty good about things. Then I went on X and I realized that I'm actually the worst thing since the beginning of time, and that I did a horrible job, and that I ought to be taken out back and shot. So, you know, people have differences of opinion on these things.
Listen, I think by any objective journalism standard, you did a fantastic job. But I mean, a man of your years should know better than to judge your performance based on X. It's an ugly place for those kinds of things.
It can be a little tough, but it's fine. It's good to hear the other side of the story, too.
Yeah. Now, let me kind of ask you to use your wise counsel as a veteran journalist. We are in an era where people are very suspicious of the media. The other day, I just went across the street to get a coffee, and a guy who, as far as I know, doesn't know me, shouted out fake news at me. But what do you think we as journalists need to do to try to counter that narrative?
Well, I think first and foremost, we got to be good at our jobs. That'd be a good start. We've got to know that when people go to an event and then they either see it on the news later that night or read about it in the paper later that maybe perhaps the next day or read it on their phones, that the account bears some resemblance to what they think they saw. So I think one of the difficulties now is that we're all living so much inside of our own echo chambers that if things don't go exactly how we think we saw them take place, we get very suspicious of these things. And, what's something we can do to break down those barriers? Well, let's talk to each other, right? I don't see any reason why people from the left, people from the right can't meet somewhere in the middle and just try to get to know one another better. I mean, I know it's heretical to say anything nice about Justin Trudeau these days, but one thing he did say in 2015, which I thought did hit a mark, was when he said, conservatives are not our enemies, they're our neighbors. And, I'd like to get back to that kind of spirit of things where we can agree or disagree, but when we disagree, we do it agreeably.
You still have a couple of months to go with the agenda, so kind of hard to answer this question definitively, but what do you think you'll miss most when you finally put that show to bed?
Going to work every day and learning something new is a beautiful thing. And when I sign off the program, I always say, here's what's coming up tomorrow, and here's the issue, and we'll explore that. And the notion of being able to kind of come to work every day and explore an issue that is topical, relevant, fascinating, is really a joy. I mean, it's a great gift. You're making me all verklempt here just thinking about not being able to do that anymore. But, you got to know when to hold and know when to fold them. And I remember Barbara Frum once saying to me more than 30 years ago, Steve, one day people are going to wake up and they're just not going to want to look at your face anymore. And I hope that day hasn't happened yet, but I want to make sure that it doesn't, which is why we're pulling the plug on the agenda. And that's why when I signed this contract 3 years ago, I said to my boss, John Ferry, John, this is the last one. We're going to go out on a high. So I hope that's what we're doing.
If your brother Jeff was watching this, he'd be saying, 2004, that's when people actually got tired of you. But you had been one of the best in the business for a long time, Steve. And so congratulations and thanks for speaking with us.
My brother Jeff, as people will not know, is your best friend from going back 40 years to university together. And my family's watching this program tonight because their favorite broadcaster is on this program. And as we all know, that's you, not me. So there you go.
All right. Steve, talk to you later.
See ya.